Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it's time for a workout. Today was Dynamic Effort Bench Press Day. Yes, we use the Buffalo bar. We'll be using it for a 3-week wave, then I'll go back to a straight bar. Would I consider eventually a Swiss bar, a football bar for these? Maybe, I don't know. Don't know if I want to keep buying more stuff for the gym. I piece these things out a little bit at a time. And people have to understand I do have other things I do have to sort and responsibilities and bills outside of just my home gym. And at this point, I mean, my home gym is in terms of what most people would spend on one, I've gone way beyond the average lifter would ever put into a home gym. Doesn't mean I won't keep adding pieces over time here or there. But you factor in the stuff you see here, plus guys have seen just off the, I've actually taken a picture, people have seen the glute ham raise, I've got the farmer's walk handles. I mean, my gym's getting pretty respectable. So I feel like having stuff like a Buffalo bar is kind of next level. So we come over to the point, with these, it gets a deeper stretch, right? That's the reason for the Buffalo bar. Normally, where are you limited on the range of motion on a bench press? Well, when the bar touches your chest. Well, this is deeper. Notice your hands go deeper. And particularly with the wider grip, because I do 3 wide, 3 medium, and 3 close grip for the speed work. Get a deeper stretch. Even with the close grip, it's still adding an extra inch. That's a deeper stretch reflex. And when you're doing the overspeed eccentric stuff, again, you're getting a greater myotatic reflex, and it creates more speed. Stronger dynamic effect. It's exactly what we want. And we come down to the range of motion. Well, this is the exact reason people would use dumbbells. So because I have a Buffalo bar and I have dipping bars, I would never need to do dumbbell presses for my chest, right? Because they're obsolete with this stuff. These are superior modalities because you can get better weight on the bar. You can get more mechanical tension, but still get the extra range of motion. And that's why people use dumbbells. Let me rephrase that. That's why intelligent people use dumbbells. All right, dumb people use dumbbells, or I shouldn't say dumb, maybe that's being facetious. People who are less educated think that it's about left or right imbalance. That's not based on reality. We've discussed that before. But they do give you a deeper stretch in many exercises. They allow for more range of motion. Well, we can get that with these tools. So that's exactly what the Buffalo bar is for. And on this stuff, which we are trying to initiate a stretch reflex, which is why we're doing the touch and go. It's why we do the overspeed eccentric and then a touch and go. Notice I don't do that on the heavy chain work. We pause. That this enhances the effect. Now, it's harder to recover from in certain ways, though. And I feel like I got a unique and slightly different chest stimulation. So I think a lot of it at this point, I think my chest work is going to come from the 2 benching things and then the floor press. I think that's all I probably need for chest for now. So I'm going to do floor presses on my max effort day. And then we're going to come in and beat my triceps a bit more on speed day for now. I mean, we're going to do triceps on both, but I think like at this point, I don't necessarily need chest specific exercises. I feel like as long as I keep trying to progress on these other 3 basic movement types, speed bench, max bench, and then floor press, I'm hoping my chest will come along. But if it doesn't, then we'll figure something out. I will need to figure out some extra chest exercises, because at the end of the day, size equals strength, and if a muscle is lagging, you got to bring it up. So I feel like at this point, though, I'm getting enough total volume for the chest. It's just my triceps are going to need extra work, delts, stuff like that. So again, we'll see how it goes. And if it becomes problematic and my chest really continues to start to feel like a limiting factor on the bench, there's other things I can do, but those things can include more floor press, which I feel tremendously in my chest, particularly with it being a full range of motion exercise for me. But I'm getting some different angles hit on the chest between the pause bench with chains, speed bench with bands, all that stuff. It's getting hit from a lot of angles. But I do need to keep my arms growing because arms have always been a weak link for me in general, and including in my strength curve. So, rows. People are noticing I'm going slightly lighter. Yeah, and it's because if you guys notice the elbows are flared at the top. I'm pulling to pretty much to my neck almost. These are almost what you would think of as a rear delt row, and they basically are. So I'm still working lats, but again, it's about building my upper back. My upper back is a weak link for me on some of my lifts, including my bench. I have finite recovery resources, and things like my lats get hit with all the pulling I'm doing too. Like my lats are probably still going to grow from doing this. They're going to grow from the deadlifting. In fact, that's what I would tell a lot of guys out there. So many guys want to focus on their lats, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you need your lats to grow, just do pull-ups and chin-ups. All right, that's the easy solution. If they're a lagging body part, that will fix it. Get really good at pull-ups and chin-ups. Full range of motion, deep stretch at the bottom. Go all the way down. But for people who do a lot of deadlifting, your lats rarely become an issue, because I've also gone through phases of training where I did nothing but deadlifting with minimal pulling and rowing or pull-ups or any of that, and my back still grew. I think deadlifts are always going to be the key. You know, people can agree to disagree with me on that. But they're going to grow from this too. It's not going to matter. But this is going to be more specific to my bench pressing. And it's easy to recover from. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do some lower down and narrower grip and heavier and rotate those in phases. But I'm trying to be more specific to my bench for now. And I know that area needs to grow. I need more rear delt. I need more trap. My entire trap. All right. I need more rhomboid. I need more thoracic erector. So a lot of the stuff I'm doing is geared towards that. It's geared towards that. It's where I need to add muscle at. You know, I need to add muscle to my triceps. I need to add muscle to my quads. So these are things that we're addressing. We're addressing it with these supplemental lifts. But today was 6 sets of 10 on these rows. And yes, that's to make sure that I get my minimum effective volume to stimulate growth in all those muscles. They're all getting splash over. I mean, they're all getting worked on all the other movements I do. I mean, all my good mornings, God, doing safety bar squats. Safety bar squats on speed day. I feel that in my upper back against those bands. All those speed pulls, I feel that whole area. But we do need to bring it up, and we need to make sure it gets enough training volume and volume that I can recover from. Again, another reason to pick the harder variation of this exercise. Why? Easier to recover from, but still hammers the area I need to grow. No axial loading. No axial loading, and because I'm forced to use a slightly lighter weight, it still keeps the same amount of tension that I might want on these other muscles, rear delts, upper back, all that stuff, that I would get from the other ones, but easier to recover from. My lats are getting plenty of stimulation as it is from all the pulling. Then we did these. All right. People are going to say, why are you doing these instead of doing them on the bench like you said you might? I tried to, and I couldn't find it to where I got a good stretch reflex. I'm not getting the effect that I want like I get with the chains. The chains are so superior to bands. But this lets me get an overspeed eccentric. It lets me get that stretch reflex, and then the band jerks back up. And we need to talk about all that. I need to make that point clear. I want any muscle damage I get from my training, I want it on these days. I want them on Thursdays and Fridays. That's why we're doing all the band work. People who want to talk about eccentric loading for myofibular hypertrophy, not necessarily getting a pump, even though some people say, is this pump work? Not really. The overspeed eccentrics are totally a different beast. I am trying to get, again, the stretch reflex in the overspeed eccentrics. That has its own hypertrophy effects. So I'm hitting these smaller muscles that are lagging muscles that I need to bring up. Delts, triceps, biceps, arms in general, with something that's going to cause myofibular growth. And so if my training volume is geared towards something like this, where we just get the mechanical tension with the chains with really good exercise selection, and then I focus on variations with the bands on the other half of the week where I can get the stretch reflex, because I'm already getting the stretch reflex. We're already getting the eccentric loading on the speed day. I'm going to continue it here, and I don't want any real eccentric loading like that on the other 2 days of the week. That's all focused on mechanical tension, moving big weights. So again, we separate the recovery from the two, and that matters. When you're going to push a lot of training volume, the recovery differences matter. You got to understand that with concurrent type training. So the same thing here. Notice I'm just coming up and trying to get that stretch reflex. It's more range of motion in terms of tension through a longer range of motion with the chains and with the bands on like this lift, for example. But it doesn't matter because we're getting the stretch reflex at the top. Just trying to get extra stimulation in my side delts and upper traps on this exercise, right? And that's all I want. And then I hit it through a slightly fuller range of motion. Not that it matters that much for these particular muscles with the change on the other day, but this is still the peak contraction area where the muscle is put under the most tension. And so we're getting a stretch reflex on it that's jerking it down. Right? That's going to cause a fair amount of muscle damage. So 5 sets of this, and again, I'm making sure that my delts are getting stimulation. But this stuff can be harder to recover from, so you can only handle so much volume. So it's like 5 sets of the tricep extensions, did 5 sets of these, and then I did 4 sets of the hammer curls using the bands. So again, we're trying to stay within that maximum recoverable volume, but we're picking exercises that hopefully give the most stimulation in terms of stimulation versus fatigue. But even like this overspeed eccentric stuff, I'm only doing once a week because I don't need to deal with the extra recovery from it on the other day, and we just focus on the pure tension on the other. So that's what I'm doing here. For people who are curious about it and they don't understand it, this is what's going on with the bands. This brings a lot more to the table than a dumbbell or a cable or any of that would. Even though at certain points of the range of motion, it might not be giving as much tension, and it doesn't. But you have to factor that in through your training balance through the week, and you have to factor in picking exercises in which you get the most tension on the muscle you're trying to hit with the bands at that point where you get the overspeed eccentric, so that it balances out. So again, 4 sets of this, and all of it went pretty good. Happy with today's workout. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.